My sister spent 20 years stealing everything I loved while my parents cheered her on, so I stole back the one thing she thought was already hers. She always made sure I knew I was second best. Not in the typical sibling rivalry way, but in the calculated, cruel way, like when we were both in the school play at 11 and she cut holes in my costume an hour before showtime. I walked on stage in a shredded dress while the audience gasped, and my parents just said I should have been more careful. They watched her scenes with rapt attention, but when my turn came, I saw them gathering their coats and slipping toward the exit. The only ones who remained were my grandparents, studying their ancient camcorder to capture every moment my parents wouldn't stay to see. By high school, her game had evolved. Marcus, the guy I'd been crushing on since freshman orientation, suddenly became interesting to her 3 days after we started dating. 2 weeks later, I caught them making out in his car. When I confronted her, she said she couldn't help it if guys preferred her. Our parents told me I was being dramatic. Senior year, I landed an internship at the Chicago Tribune, the only high school spot they offered. When I told my family at dinner, my sister immediately started crying about how I knew she wanted to work there. She'd never mentioned journalism once. The next morning, she called my editor, claiming I plagiarized my submission samples. They revoked my offer. My mom's response, "You should have let her apply too." The pattern never changed. Anything that mattered to me, she had to take. My friends became her friends. My interests became her obsessions. My achievements became competitions she had to win. And my parents enabled it every time because she was prettier, more charming, and could cry on command. When I got engaged to David 5 months ago, I thought distance had finally fixed things. We'd been low contact for years, and she seemed genuinely happy at the announcement dinner. She even hugged me and said David was lucky. First red flag I missed. My sister never compliments me without an agenda. 8 weeks later, she got engaged to her boyfriend of 3 months. At our cousin's baby shower, she pulled me aside with that fake smile that always meant trouble. She wanted me to be the first to know she'd booked the Whitmore estate for next September. The Whitmore estate where our grandparents got married in 1952, where I'd played pretend weddings since I was 5, where grandma told me she'd dance at my wedding someday. The exact venue I'd shown her pictures of last month. I told her that was my venue, that she knew I'd been planning to get married there since childhood. She tilted her head and said I hadn't booked it yet, so first come, first served. Then she added that grandma was dead now anyway, so it wasn't like she'd know. That's when I knew this wasn't about rivalry. She wanted to hurt me. I didn't scream or make a scene. I simply smiled and agreed that yes, it was first come, first served. Then I went home and spent 3 days researching the Whitmore Estates booking system. They were completely booked for 18 months, except for one date, one perfect Saturday, exactly 4 weeks before my sister's wedding. I booked it immediately. The explosion was nuclear. She called, screaming about how I was stealing her thunder, how no one would care about her wedding after mine. Our parents drove 2 hours to ambush me at my apartment, offering to pay for my entire wedding if I'd change venues. $30,000 to move my wedding so my sister wouldn't be inconvenienced. Funny how they'd never offered to pay for my wedding before. I told them if they couldn't support me for once in my life, they weren't welcome at my wedding. Then I blocked them all. My grandfather walked me down the aisle alone, and I wore grandma's pearl necklace that she'd left specifically for my wedding day. The Whitmore estate had never seen a more beautiful ceremony. My sister changed venues, and from what I heard, ended up at some generic country club. That was 2 weeks ago. I thought I'd won. I thought it was finally over. Then yesterday my phone rang. It was my sister, full-on sobbing. Not the fake tears she'd perfected for our parents, but raw, broken crying. Her fiancé had left. She was pregnant and alone and had nobody else to call. So against every instinct, I agreed to meet her. She was already at the cafe when I arrived, hunched over a table covered in papers. Her perfect makeup was streaked. She looked destroyed. She slid the papers toward me without a word. Legal documents about custody and guardianship. My name was already filled in. When I asked what the hell this was, she said she needed me to take the baby when it was born. She couldn't do this alone. I was the only family she had left. The words sounded so foreign coming from her mouth. I asked why the hell she thought I'd raise her baby after everything she'd done to me. She looked up then, meeting my eyes for the first time. Her voice went completely flat. Because it's David's.